Hello, Sunil. Hello, friends. I'm delighted to welcome you to this webinar on key features of E2TallySoft, and we'll be covering the E2TallySoft Pro version in this webinar today. Sorry for the slight delay. There are some technical hiccups. We are not able to get the internet connection, and now we are all set and ready to go. The primary objective of E2TallySoft is to help you automate accounting in Tally by importing masters or vouchers from MS Excel to Tally in a few clicks. I'm C. Abdul Rafiq, Managing Director of Windsor Infotech Limited. This is a broad vision of a company. We aspire to be a global leading solution provider in data analytics for empowering professionals to realize the potential by applying thought-through technology. We develop assurance, compliance, and consulting services primarily focused on CAs and CXOs. And these are mostly innovative solutions which are not readily available in the market. I've dedicated more than 2 decades on developing IT and IT-enabled solutions for CAs and CXOs. This is my brief bio or CV. I passed my CA in 1985 and the CISA exam in 1995. And since that time, I have been specializing in information technology, governance, assurance, risk, and control. I've also been a faculty for the DISA course since more than 2 decades. And I'm the chief architect of the data analytics solutions. I'm very passionate about making technology work. Now let's go to the solution we're talking about. E2TallySoft Enterprise and E2TallySoft Pro are part of the automation suite solutions. Why do we need the solution? If you look at the problem statement, creating masters and data entry in Tally requires time and expertise, and you have to enter data in Tally one by one. Now the idea is there a faster and easier way for creating masters and entering transactions in Tally? In many of the clients, especially now in the digital world, you find they already are doing transactions on e-commerce or on portals, and they have this data pertaining to the sales or purchases which they're able to download in Excel. Similarly, you've got the bank statement which they're able to download in Excel. Now it becomes cumbersome to actually take each of the data entries, each of the data, and enter it in Tally. Now the idea is, can we convert this data which is available in the standard formats into a standard Tally voucher format and import it? And that's what is the primary solution, and that's what E2TallySoft is all about. It's an automated solution. It's an add-in software to MS Excel for importing masters and transactions of accounting, inventory, and cost center, and also bill-wise from MS Excel to Tally in a few clicks. So you can import the information of the masters and the data or the vouchers from Excel to Tally in a few clicks. You have the data in ready-made Excel templates. You can populate the data, or if there's already data in a standard format, you can convert the data into the Tally required format by using our tools, and then based on that you can import it in one go. I'm going to give you a demo shortly of some of these functions. Why do we need to use E2TallySoft? As I said, it supplements the powerful features of Tally with the simplicity of MS Excel, and thus help you to avoid manual data entry and import transactions. For example, we have come across cases where we had about 10,000 transactions from an ERP solution which had to be imported into Tally, which had to be maintained in Tally because the auditors wanted the data in Tally. We're able to convert this in a few hours once you had created all the required masters. The look and feel of E2TallySoft, because an add-in software to Excel, has the look and simple interface of Excel itself. And all the data which is required to be imported in Tally, you can have this in the standard templates. We already provided many ready-made templates inside the software, which you can download and use. It comes with both ready to fill and also with sample data. Once you've done that, You have converted the data, you can import the data. Now this gives you a synopsis of what are the key features of E2TallySoft. The bottom line is, using the software, you can do more in less time. For example, there's a client who got transactions from a doctor. There are about 2,000 transactions in Excel format, and they had to convert into Tally. They had to input into Tally, and if they had to manually input, the average is about 200 transactions per day. Now, these 2,000 transactions, we're able to formulate and convert and import into Tally in less than 2 hours. The main time was spent in actually ensuring that the masters are correctly created and the data is properly validated. Once it was done, the import of these 2,000 transactions took less than 10 minutes. What is E2TallySoft? To summarize, it's a one-stop solution for importing data of masters and transactions pertaining to accounting, inventory, cost centers, and bill-wise from Excel to Tally in a few clicks. Now, this look and feel of how E2TallySoft looks like. Now, E2TallySoft is available in 2 versions. I'll come to that a little later, the enterprise version and the pro version. If you look at the E2TallySoft Pro version, primarily it's focused on, if you look at the features, it has standard templates for the masters and the vouchers. You can open Tally directly from here, or you can open Tally directly from your software itself, from your system itself. You can validate the masters before importing. You can validate the masters and the vouchers, and then you can convert. Once you're converted, or if the data is already in ready-made format, you can import the masters or the vouchers as required. You will also generate statistics for the vouchers which are generated. There are sample formats which are available for each of these formats pertaining to convert vouchers. For example, sales, purchases, services, etc. And you also have context-sensitive help. Now, if you look at the difference or the comparison between the enterprise and pro version, now this gives you the panel and the functions. You find the key differences in the case of E2TallySoft Pro version. We do not have the option or the feature of import from Tally, which means you cannot import the data from Tally to Excel in a structured format. Other than that, you can push the data from Excel template to Tally. In the case of E2TallySoft Enterprise, once you have imported the data or any data which you got in Tally, you can also do the reverse process, which means from Tally, you can export to Excel, either the masters or the vouchers as you selected. Let's look at some key questions and answers. We know it supplements the powerful features of Tally with the simplicity of Excel. You can import from Tally, and the beauty is you can import thousands of transactions in a few minutes. Who can use it? Any user of Tally, whether it's an accountant, business owners, or assurance professionals, or anybody who provides a service of bookkeeping, or it can also be maintained internally for maintaining the accounts. For example, let's say a CA firm does the billing. They want to keep the information confidential. They can keep the data, all the data pertaining to the billing in Excel file in the standard format, and they can decide, depending on when they want to import, they can import all the transactions within a few minutes. The way you use the software is very simple. You select the module or function from E2TallySoft and import the masters and the vouchers as required from Excel worksheet into Tally. When do you use? Whenever you want to automate importing the masters or vouchers from Excel to Tally. Now, what is that you can import? The vouchers and the masters could be pertaining to accounting, inventory, cost center, or bill wise. Now, this gives you a quick synopsis of the panels. You can open Tally. You have standard templates. You can validate the data. You can import to Tally. You also have convert to voucher features where you can convert different formats of sales, purchases, and services, or JVs, or bank statement, receipt payments into the software. How to use it? Let's focus now on the most practical aspects. And I'm going to quickly show you a demo after another 5 minutes. Open Tally, select the company in the period for which you want to import the data. Open Excel and click on the tab of the E2TallySoft. Click on the specific function which you want. For example, you want to import masters, or you want to import vouchers, or you want to convert to vouchers. Depending on that, you select the specific function and you use the relevant options as required. And once you're imported or converted, you need to review the results and confirm that they are as expected. Now, these are 7 tips for using E2TallySoft effectively. First, open Tally, as I said, and select the company and period for which to import the data. You can open Tally directly from the system, or using E2TallySoft, you can open Tally. The advantage when you want to open Tally from the software is you can open multiple companies. But for the purpose of using E2TallySoft, especially for conversion or importing, only one version of Tally should be opened and only one company should be opened. Open Excel and click on the tab of E2TallySoft. And please open only one copy of Tally and one copy of Excel and close all other instances of Tally or Excel. Please ensure that the file is not in read-only mode or the drive in which the data is available is synced online with Google Drive or OneDrive, etc. Because in that case, what happens? The OneDrive software makes only a read-only copy of the file and you are not able to use the software. Please ensure the data is in the right format. This is the most critical thing. For example, if it's a date-related data, please use the filter option and check whether the date is in the right format. Similarly, the text is in the text format and number in the number format. You can validate each of the columns to ensure that they are in the right format and there are no blank rows or columns. And there are also no duplicate columns. We also built in validation in the software so that if there are blank rows, they'll be automatically removed. And if there are duplicate columns, it will also tell you which columns are duplicate. And we always suggest make a copy of the data before converting or importing, and also make a backup of the Tally data before importing. Why is it required? Just to be on the safer side. We have tested the data most extensively, but still we always say better be safe than sorry. For example, let's say there's a client who had to import about 1,000 transactions and they had set the import option to automatic. So let's say they have the sales vouchers of 1,000 vouchers. They imported the 1,000 vouchers because some reason, again, they forgot about it and imported it again. And again, the same 1,000 vouchers got imported because when you set the voucher number to automatic, it doesn't check for duplicates. But if you set the numbering option to duplicate, there is a feature where the Tally or our software will check for duplicates. So it's always better to have a copy of the backup copy of the Tally data before performing the E2TallySoft functions. And once you got the result, always verify for the data converted or imported where the result is complete and correct. So this you can do through the statistics function, because for every data converted or import, the statistics is generated by the software. And you can also use the DSS feature of Tally, that is a statistic feature, where you can go and check whether the number of vouchers which are imported are correct and complete. You can also open DAL, that is a ledger feature, to check some of the ledgers to check whether transactions are correctly and completely posted. We have got the templates in which there are detailed guidelines for each of the templates, which tells you specifically how to import and what are the precautions to be taken. Okay, now this gives you simple steps for importing the masters and vouchers. Open Tally, as I said earlier, open Tally and select the company and period for which to import the data. Open the Excel and click on tab of the E2TallySoft. Download the template of the sample data, which of whatever you want to import, whether it's a masters, or review and add the relevant data in the relevant worksheets in the required format. We have got different formats. If it's accounting, there's a different format. If you got, let's say in accounting, you got inventory, there is a different format. Depending on that, you can use the relevant format and populate the data, and then you can validate and import the data. You can import the masters and then you import the vouchers and then verify the results. The same process is to be followed for inventory also. We also have the convert to voucher option. I'll be giving you a demo of multiple options of this. Here also in this case, depending on the type of the data available, use the relevant format of the data and also use the relevant function to import or convert the data, and then you can import it. So what is that you can convert? You have the option to convert sales, purchases, services or JVs, bank or cash, receipt to payment, or even salaries. In E2TallySoft, I think salaries is not available. E2TallySoft Pro. We also got a map vouchers. This feature is available only in E2TallySoft Enterprise. In this case, what we do is you provide a shortcut template through which you can convert the vouchers if the data is in a simple format. Let's look at some of the key functions and features. So what is that you can do with E2TallySoft Pro? You can automate import in bulk or you can also input single entries. The single entry option we have removed now because most of them said we can directly enter in Tally. There's no need to input single entries. So we have removed the single input entries from Tally using our software. You can import the Masters or Vouchers accounting. You can generate a specific company info statistics and index worksheet for documentation. You can also export the trial balance as required. You can also prepare the consolidated trial balance. Now, if broadly, if you see, there are totally 14 key functions in E2TallySoft Pro. And there is a template, PDF template, for which a link is provided to all our customers. It's also available online on our website, which gives a brief description for each of the panels, menus, and the functions. For example, let's say when you say templates, what does the template panel do? Similarly, in Template Masters, what does it provide? Similarly, template vouchers, what does it do? Similarly, in template convert to vouchers, what does it do? For each of this, we have provided the detailed information about what the function is. So you can get a quick synopsis of the software for all the functions in one glance. So these are the list of the functions. Now let's look at some use cases before we go to the demo. Let's say CFM gets inquiry to create accounts of Tally in 1 year based on the bank statement, sales, purchase, or expense available. And this data is available in digital format. Now the data could be of a voluminous size, depending on what will be the type of data. You can convert this data and import it. I'll show you sample template for each of this. Sample process, how this can be done. Like your case study number 2. Now, CFM has got assignment to prepare accounts to Tally for multiple years for Nasi based on an IT case which has to be present in 3 to 4 weeks. Now, the client has the basic documents in digital format. These are pertaining to bank statement, expense bill, sales, transactions, etc. And all this data could be converted into standard format and the client was able to import this data through the CA, and they're able to prepare the final accounts and present to the income tax authorities within a few days compared to a few months it would have taken if the data was manually entered. If you take one more case, a company with multiple branches has regular recurring entries which are manually entered through JVs for each of the companies. For example, let's say a company has got 30 branches and they pass regular JVs, about 10 JVs for each of the type of transactions. For example, let's say rent payable, salary payable, interest payable, consultancy charges payable. They prepared standard template for this, and using the standard template, all the JVs were automatically created for the months whenever they wanted at the month end, and we're able to import this in a few minutes. Whereas manually, it would have taken probably about 4 to 6 hours to prepare the JVs and also import. Because you have the data in a standard format, in a standard template, and most of the expenses are common and the amount is also common. So the same template can be repeatedly used multiple times, making only the required changes, and input happens quite quickly. So this summarizes the discussion we had so far. Why used E2TallySoft Pro? In short, you can automate import of the masters and vouchers from Excel to Tally. This broadly what I wanted to give you a quick synopsis of what the software is all about. I wanted to spend more time on the practical aspects and give you a demo of specific functions. If you got any questions, I'll take the questions. Otherwise, I'll walk you through the software. Now, this is what I said. This is an Excel file of the functions which are available in E2TallySoft, which I showed you in PDF in the PPT. For each of the functions, it tells you what are the functions and whether it belongs to a panel, whether it's a menu or a function. If you make a comparison between E2TallySoft and E2TallySoft Pro, now this gives you a comparative version of what are the features which are available in E2TallySoft Pro. Now let me show you the software. Let us close this. Let me open a sample data file, and then we'll get started and show you how you can convert the data. This is actual data which is shared by one of the clients. Now this is a bank statement which they had. Let's come to the original data which is there. I'm going to show you the original data, how they convert, there is a converted result, and then I'll show you how the conversion can be done and the import is possible. Okay, now this is the data which they had. Just for the purpose of the convenience, the data is formatted and filtered. Now let's look at the remove the filter. Now this is a bank statement. I'll also show you the data conversion of bank statement from the standard template which is available. Now, as I said, E2TallySoft is an add-in to Excel. So it means once you add it, it will be available here. Now, in my case, I have got both E2TallySoft enterprise version. This is the enterprise version. And see here in the case of enterprise version, we also have got map vouchers, and we also got import from Tally, the daybook, trial balance, etc. You can import. Whereas in the case of E2TallySoft Pro, we have got only features pertaining to importing data from Excel to Tally. Now, like I said, first one is you can open Tally. If Tally is already open, now let me open Tally. Now it gives you the option. I can say where the Tally is available, and I can open the company. So from here directly I can open Tally. Next, I've got the templates. Okay, now if you look at the templates of the masters, let me do a quick walkthrough. If you look at the masters, now these are the templates for import. You can also alter the masters. This is where you use the template for the alter. In import, let's say I take accounting. Now there are two types of templates available: sample data template and ready to fill template. Let me pick them one by one. When I say accounting, I say sample data. Now, if you see here, this is what I said is the guideline, which tells you what are the guidelines to follow in the data. Now, when you're creating the masters, you first create the groups. Now, what is given in red is the mandatory data which is required for importing the masters. Without that, the masters will not get imported into Tally. So if you're importing the groups, you need to have the group name and the parent name. The others are optional. If the data is available, that will be imported. If it is blank, it will not be imported. Next, you create the ledgers. In the case of the ledger, you have the ledger name and the parent. You can also have the opening balance. You can also have various other details, including the GST details. You also have to create the voucher types. And then you have the statistics for this. Now, it's not necessary for all the clients you need to create all the masters. Either the existing client, you don't need to create the masters. You need to create only masters for the additions or the changes which are there. Okay, I'm going to use this in education mode itself. Now, the difference between education mode and the license mode is there are some features which are not possible in E2TallySoft. There are only limited features. But in the case of E2TallySoft, in the case of E2TallySoft, you need to have the license version. Otherwise, you will not be able to import. You can import transactions only 1 or 2 days. Tally has that restriction. Okay. Now let me just go through the templates and I'll come back to this. Now here I showed you the templates pertaining to the masters. Same thing. If I go to the E2TallySoft Pro, I pick up the masters. Now I pick up the ready to fill. When I pick ready to fill for accounting, if you see here, now I have the guidelines. Now here, if you see the groups, these are all blank. So it means you can actually populate and then you can use the same data to import. You have the ledgers and you have got the voucher types. Now let's say same thing you want to for inventory. I go to masters, then I pick up inventories. Now I pick up the sample data. I say open. It follows the same structured format. You got the guidelines. For inventory, you will have the accounting masters, which is groups, ledgers, and voucher types. In addition to that, you will have the inventory masters, which includes the units, go downs, stock groups, stock categories, stock items. In each of these, you have to ensure that the data which is in red, which is the mandate data, is available. And second, you have to follow the hierarchy. For example, if you're creating the inventory data, first you have to create the units, the go downs, the stock group, stock categories, stock items, and then the currencies. This is the format in which the data has to be created. This is the order in which the data has to be created. Now, let's say I want to do for cost centers. Now, you see there will be some additional entries here, additional columns in the case of templates pertaining to cost centers. So, if you see here, in the case of cost center, I'll have the cost category and I'll also have the cost center. Same way for the bill wise also, you'll have some additional information which has to be captured. Now, these are the masters pertaining to accounting. Now, let's come to the templates pertaining to the vouchers. Now in the vouchers, I'm going to pick up accounting and I'm going to pick up with the sample data. Now, if you see here, you have the guidelines for each of the vouchers. Then you have all the vouchers. The data has to be in this format for importing into Tally. If you got the data readily in this particular format, you can import the data readily into Tally. Now, if you got the data, you can do it. Otherwise, this is where we have the convert to vouchers, where the data may not be in this particular format, but you can convert this using the convert to voucher feature and convert the data into this format. And once you got the voucher data in this format, you are ready to import. Now, if you see here, each transaction should have a unique transaction ID. There is a date, ledger name, voucher type, voucher number, debit, credit, and you may also have the transaction type, and you also have some optional information. So now if you see, we have the vouchers and we have the masters. Now let me come back to the masters. These are the masters which are available. Now, similarly, if you want other vouchers, you can also go to inventory. You can also take up, now let's look at inventory and see what happens. If it's the inventory data, if you see here, this pertaining to the masters. Now I wanted to show you the vouchers. Now let's pick up the vouchers. I'm going to pick the inventories. I say open. Now you see there are some additional columns which are available for inventories. So in the case of inventory data, I also need to have the item name, quantity, unit of measure, the rate and rate or the tax rate. Okay, or the unit rate. This is what is available. This is the mandate data which is there for pushing the inventory data into Tally. You also need to have one more column, which is the ledger for the stock item. Similarly, in the case of the cost category and cost center item, cost center, you need to have the cost category, cost center, the CC debit and the CC credit. Similarly, in the case of bill wise, there are about 4 additional items like bill reference, bill type, and the credit period, etc. Okay, this is what is the format. Now let's go to the specific items. Let's see. I got the Tally data open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new company. Let me just check the period for which the data is available. Now here, if you see, I've got the data from 1st April 19. Now for the purpose of demo, I kept only 2 dates here, 1st April and 2nd April. I forgot to activate the license. Yeah, let's go ahead with it, doesn't matter. So I have this 1st April. Now I have now 2nd, which means when I'm creating Tally, I'm going to create demo. So I can add the details, what the details are required. Now here I need to say 1st April 19. So I created this company. I got this company. I'm going to exit the existing company. Okay, so now if you see, I don't have any transactions. By default, Tally has this particular data pertaining to the groups, ledgers, and vouchers. For example, if you see, by default, Tally has its own groups. Okay, there are 28 groups. Similarly, there are 2 voucher types, which pertain to cash and the profit and loss account. Similarly, there are some default voucher types which are available. This is what happens whenever you open a new company. So I got this particular data, which is from April 20 to March 21. Okay, let's see. Now, it's also important that you have the data for the right period. I'm going to change this accounting period from April 19 to March 20. Yeah, because by default, I opened the company previously. It was for 2021. That's why Tally showed the same accounting period for the next company also. Okay, I've got this particular company, which has got nothing, which has no transactions. I'm going to go to the masters first. I've got this masters, groups, ledgers, and voucher types. And then I'm going to show you how to import this masters. Okay, I go to E2TallySoft Pro. Then I can also do the validation. In this case, there is nothing to validate. Okay, I'm going to take masters. Now it tells me by default is already selected the groups, ledgers, and voucher types. I say okay. Now see, it created the groups. It's now creating the ledgers. Now it created 256 ledgers in a few seconds. Now let's come to statistics and check what happened. It gives you the statistics of what has been created. Do you want to say the statistics? I say yes. It says the statistics of what you imported. Now this is a simple process through which we have been able to create the masters pertaining to the groups, ledger, voucher types. Now here, if you see, if this particular masters had cost category, cost center, that would have been automatically selected and shown. Now let's go to Tally and cross check whether these have been created. I come to Tally now, statistics. Now if you see here, ledgers, earlier we had 28 groups. Now we have got 69. Now if you see the ledgers, I got 258 ledgers. Now stock groups, similarly voucher types, there are 2 voucher types additionally which have been added. Okay, now let's go and check the opening balance because we got it with the opening balance. I come to the balance sheet. Now you see, there is a data available. There's a difference in opening balances. I'll also tell you what is the reason the difference is coming. I go to F11, maintain accounts, maintain inventory. Integrate inventory, yes, okay. Next, let's come back to this one. If you come to the profit and loss account, the reason I think is because of the closing stock, or there's some particular reason the opening balance itself, I think there is a difference in the TB. That's why the difference there. We'll look at it a little later, doesn't matter. Now, if you come to my masters, this is the masters I had. Okay, so in the masters, I had the ledgers. In the ledgers, I had this debit credit balances. So I have to ensure that the debit and credit tallies when I import. For example, here if you see, debit is shown as minus, okay, and credit will be shown as plus. Okay, now here if I remove the debit and the credit and take both, okay, now you see here when I select this, the balance is 0. I think we have some adjustment here pertaining to the accounting inventory that we have to do in F11. Then automatically this will be taken care of. Maintain inventory, integrate accounting. Now I think it's not coming here. Okay, it depends on how did I create the company. I should have created the company. Now when you're generating, now if you're importing, it's also important that you should ensure, if I integrate, yes, now I've done this, integrate. Now let's look at the balance sheet. Still it's showing the difference. Okay, there could be some reason why the difference there. Anyway, so now I've shown you how to import the masters. Now let's come to the vouchers and import the vouchers, because I want to spend more time on convert to vouchers option because that's what is most extensively used. Okay, now I have this vouchers. Now just remember this is the standard format in which data is already converted. Now I want to import this. If the masters are available, it should be able to import, or if the masters are not available, it validate and give the error. Now I'm going to directly, first let me validate, or directly when I import, it will do the validation. So I'm just going to say vouchers. Now it selects, if the cost center bill wise is there enabled, it will select this also. It gives the name of the company is open as a precaution. Please validate before importing. Now, whether you accept or not, it does the validation. So this it also shows you in messages what is the type of validation it is doing. So what it will do is for all the, let's say if you had 258 ledgers, it will validate for all the transactions which are available, whether required ledgers are available. That has been done. Now it's importing the vouchers. Let's import and then check how many vouchers have been imported. Now, the issue would be if the total number of, let's say, ledgers are 5,000 or 10,000, which means the volume is high in terms of the ledgers, and also the transactions high, then the validation is going to take a longer time because it has to validate, even if you're importing 100 vouchers, it has to validate for the 100 vouchers in the existing ledgers. Now, see the beauty of this. There are totally 916 vouchers which are imported in a few seconds as we're talking. Now, it also tells you what are the type of vouchers which are imported. I say yes. Now let me go and go to Tally and cross check what has happened. Now this gives me the complete information, the balance sheet, which means once you provide the information to Tally, there is no difference between manually entering the data and what you got here. Now let's go to statistics and check. Now you see here, totally 916 vouchers. Now let's see how the voucher will look like. Now you see here, it's exactly the way you would enter it manually. So what we do is, there is no magic in this. The Tally requires the data to be provided in XML format. We provide the data in the required format with all the required tags to Tally in XML. And that's what Tally is able to take and store it in the database. And it's able to use it for processing the information. Now, if you see here, this is the transaction. So it means once I got the data, Tally will take care of the processing for the purpose of preparing the trial balance, balance sheet, profit account, etc. Okay. Now, similarly, we got payments here. Now, if you see here, payment, all the payments are available. So it means instead of manually entering, I've been able to create all the transactions, import all the transactions in a few seconds. All of them will be in the same format. Okay, now let's look at the trial balance. Trial balance. So now you see, you have the trial balance also. You want trial balance ledger wise. There's no difference, which means you can get all the reports which you had in this. Okay, this is how we showed you. You can import the masters and the vouchers. Now let's come to the interesting part, which I was telling you. How do I convert the existing vouchers and import them? Because that is the most critical thing. Because many of you would be, when you're using, you would have this issue. Let me close all the files. I'm just going to have one default file. For example, this is a file of a particular client, now which you downloaded in Excel and shared with us because some issue. Now this data is available from, now if you see here, this data is available from 15/4/20 to there is one particular date which is pertaining to the next financial year. Now what I would do is probably I'll take this as 31st March 21. I'll not be able to import this data, but I'll just show you how to convert this data. Okay, rather I'll show you how the data has been converted, and then I'll show you step by step how to convert. Now I got this data from the bank. I've downloaded this in Excel. I've just formatted this data. The most important thing I do is I add the corresponding ledger column. So it means for each of the transactions, what is the corresponding ledger name, which should be already available in Tally. If it's not available in Tally, when you import it, Tally will tell you these are the ledgers not available. Okay. If the ledger is not available, I'll also show you how you can create. Now this is a bank copy of the bank statement. Now this is the converted data. How to convert, that also I'll show you. So once it's converted, you see there is a unique transaction ID, date. It tells you what is to be debited, what is to be credited. In this case, they are given the name as this particular bank, user ABC 47536. That is the name of the bank they have given. So for each of the transactions, this has been created. Okay, now just let me come back here. Now I got this particular data. I'm going to convert this with my own bank name and then show you how the conversion happens. Okay, now let me complete this process. I can also, based on the transactions, I also find what are the ledger names. I can also add the parent, ledger and parent, and I can also use a pivot table on the bank statement which is converted to identify what are the ledgers required. And based on that, I can create the ledgers like this. I have the ledger name parent. Now, just to identify what the debit or credit balance, I've just added this. So for the purpose of importing, when I'm importing, I'll delete this. I'll just add the ledger name for this, and then I can import. So this is how it will be. The masters you can create. Now, if I got this ledgers, I can import this ledgers. Now, can I import this? Let's check whether we can import this. I got this E2TallySoft. I got this masters. Now, this will be imported provided the parent is also available. If the parent is not available, it will not be imported. Let's see what happens. Now, it also tells you in this case, now it picked up the wrong information. So because we picked up a different this one, so I had to pick up the ledger. I picked up the wrong file. Okay, it reads the ledgers in this particular format. Let's see. Import to Tally masters. I've got the ledgers. Now I think I should do it. I say okay. Now these are the ledgers. See, now it's already imported 14 ledgers. Do you want to save the statistics? Yes, you can create the statistics. Now you can check bank charges is already created. If it was not there, it would have been created. See, bank charges is created. Like that, all the ledgers, what 14 ledgers are created, has been done. Now let's come back here. Let me do the conversion and show you how the conversion happens. Now I have this bank statement. Just to be clear, what I'll do is I'll just save it in a separate file, so there is no confusion. I will just operate with this one single file. So I got this data. I'm going to save this file to convert. Don't keep it in the cloud. This becomes important. I'm going to keep it in desktop. Okay, because you cannot operate with the data in the cloud. Here, the data has to be available on your local desktop. I got this particular data. I'm going to convert it. How do I convert? The process is very simple. I come to E2TallySoft Pro. Now I have these options to convert. I pick up the bank or cash. Now this tells me, I give the name of the bank. Let's say in this case, I'm going to give HDFC Bank. Okay, now I give the column heading from where it starts. So I say the column heading starts from here. Automatically, it reads the file to the end. Okay, now it tells me which is the end row. It's already got. Now there are two ways I can enter the data. I may not have the time to actually enter all the corresponding ledgers. So then in that case, I can say ledger. I can say I want to put it in suspense account. Okay, in that case, for each of the ledger transactions, it will create a suspense account, which is a corresponding ledger. Now here I've already created the corresponding ledger. So I'm going to select the column, which is the corresponding ledger. I got the corresponding ledger. By default, it is selected the transaction date, the check number, the value date. If you want, you can have this. I also have the narration. Now it also tells me whether it's a debit or credit. It's already selected by default. Okay. It also gives me the voucher numbers by default. Now, if I've got additional details, for example, I want to add the cost center or any other details, I can also do that. Now let me come back here and I say convert data. Now this is where the conversion happens. It also creates statistics for the conversion. And I say preview vouchers. Now this is where it creates the data. I say save it. Data has been exported to Excel. I say yes. Now you see the data has been created. Okay, this is how the data is created. So investment MF General is debited, credit HDFC Bank. And it also automatically adds whether it's a payment or a receipt. It automatically adds the corresponding voucher type also. So once I've got this data, now I can import this particular data directly into Tally. Now here, I don't have, there are two issues in this. One is the data is pertaining to 2021. And the second thing is some of the ledgers may not be available. If I import this, what will happen? It'll do a validation and tell you that these ledgers are not available. Now let's try this so that I can show you the complete cycle. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not just going to change Alt F2. I'm going to change it to the next accounting year. I come to Excel here. This is a bank statement. Let me close the other bank statement. Okay, this is the bank statement I've got now. What is that I'm going to do? Instead of trying to import and get the errors, I'll say validate the masters. Okay, validate masters means it has to be in the current format. So here what I got is the voucher itself. Now let's say import to Tally vouchers. Let's see what happens. Now it tells me what are the transactions. I say okay. Okay, there's another issue because Tally is in education mode. It will take transaction only pertaining to 2nd and 31st. Okay, otherwise it have been able to import. And if the ledger is not available, it would have created a validation summary. See, now it tells me that these dates are invalid because this is education mode. Okay, let's say I'm going to change this data. All this data, I'll just change it to, let's say, 1st April 20. And see whether we are able to import this. What will happen? What is the validation you get here? I'm just doing it for test case, some test case to just give you the demo. Now, when I say import to Tally vouchers, I say okay. Please validate. Okay. There are vouchers beyond the accounting period. Do you want to import all the vouchers? Okay. I say yes. some of the data are invalid, please check the validation summary. So it creates a validation summary. So here, if you see validation summary, it tells you, please check the link. These ledgers are invalid, which is this HDFC Bank is not available in Tally. So I can go and let's say I can go and create the ledger HDFC Bank. If there are one or two directly, you can create in Tally itself. I got this bank accounts. Okay. Now let me come back here and check whether I'm able to import these transactions. Okay, I got this data. I got this bank statement. 1420 and the accounting period. Let's see what the accounting period here. I got 2021. Okay, so the reason it gave this error was I have been still in April 2021. So what I'll do is I think I'll go back to Alt F2, April 19 to May 20. Okay, this is the accounting period for which we already have the data. Yeah. Now let's change this also. I'm just going to change it to 2019. Okay. Okay, I've got all the data for this particular date. Let me see. I want to show you how to import. Let's see. I come to E2TallySoft Pro and I say import to Tally vouchers. Please validate. Yes. Now again, it found this particular thing. Do you want to import all the vouchers? I say yes. Okay, there's some issue in this. Please check the data has some special characters. So it's not able to import. So it's okay. This we already had. So in some cases, if there is an error, it will tell you what is the error which is there. Okay, because this is the educational version, we had some issues. Okay, now let's come to the next one, which is very important. I want to pick up, let's say, a bank. This one from this itself. I have this E2TallySoft Pro. I got this templates, let's say, pertaining to the convert to vouchers. This is what is most important. I got the data, let's say, pertaining to the bank or cash. The single column, I say open. I'm going to take another 15 minutes because I started around 4:25. Okay, now this is a bank statement which I've got the same ledgers. This sample template is available, which you can use for the purpose of practice. Okay, I've got this particular data and I want to show how to convert this. So first, let me close the other file which is not required. I got this data. This is actual data download from the bank. Okay, without any much formatting, I just formatted the headers to just try to indicate that these are mandatory columns. So I click on E2TallySoft. I use the option. This I have to, it's very important to remember. Now these are not in the standard template to import. When you say import to Tally, it will give a message that the data is in the not in the right format. So I'm going to use the convert to vouchers option, bank or cash. So here I can give the name of the bank. So here, let's say I give this as ICICI Bank. Okay, I select the column heading. So wherever the column start, just give the first cell, that's enough. It automatically reads till the end. And it tells you which is the last cell. I've already got this. Based on the column header, it's already populated the data. Now I'm going to select the column and say corresponding column. Okay, and now I have to just say convert the data. Now as the data is getting converted, it gives the statistics. Now I say preview the vouchers. Now you see the transactions have been created in the standard Tally format, which is ready to import. I say save. Once I have saved, then I'm ready to import this particular data. Now this is pertaining to the bank format. Okay, now let's go to the next format, which is pertaining to the sales. I already have some sample data pertaining to sales, which is the GST sales which are converted. Okay, before that, let me show you one more pertaining to the cash transactions or general transactions. You can also have the transactions with cost center, inventory, etc. Now here, if you see, I got some transactions from online. Okay, the sample data to convert. So I have got, if you see here, about 350 plus transactions. These are online collections which happen pertaining to a cab agency. Okay, so they have the cab operator. They collect some amount from him, and this pertain to the type of the account, which is the initial deposit or secure deposit. And they create the narration. Narration also you can use Excel and say what are the information you want. Based on that, I have used the text join function and picked up specific field for the purpose of creating the narration. Now I'm going to use the sample data and show you how to convert this data into a journal entry. So in this case, what I do is I come to E2TallySoft Pro. I pick up the services or journal. So here, if you see, there is a debit amount, there is a debit ledger name, there is a credit ledger name, and corresponding there is a amount. So I picked up the date. I have the voucher number. Voucher number. I don't have the voucher number. So this is where I said you need to do the data validation. I'll not be able to pick up the transaction based on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this. Now let me remove the filter. Okay, I'm just going to add one column here, which is, let's say, called the transaction ID or the serial number, and give unique number for each of them. If this is not there, I'll not be able to import. So there are 350 rows. Each row will be converted as one voucher. I save this. Now I come to E2TallySoft Pro. I pick up the services journal. You'll read the worksheet. And if there's error, it will tell you. Now it will see it's automatically picked up the voucher number and trans ID. I got the date and the time. Let's see which is the date and the time. Yeah, I got the date time, which is the one. Voucher type, I don't have the voucher type. So manually I can go and say voucher type. And I can say this is a journal transaction. I can also pick up the narration. I just type N automatically. All the columns with that N will come. I got only one here called narration. Now here, I have to select the debit. See, read here, enter or select debit details. So here debit details is the account. And here I have to give the debit amount. Similarly, I'm going to create the credit operator name and I have to create amount. Okay, I can have single or multiple. I showed you single, I'll also show you multiple. So this is what I've got. And I say convert. See, all the 350 transactions are now getting converted into a journal voucher, which can be imported in Tally in a few seconds, provided all the ledgers are available. Now you see here, debit initial deposit, credit this particular party, debit this initial deposit, credit party, like that creates along with the narration. I say preview vouchers. Okay, this is how the format is created. I save it. Now this will export to Excel, and this is the sheet which you are going to use for the purpose of importing the data. Okay, now because I'm zoomed, sometimes it goes to the background. Data has been imported. I say yes. So now you see all these 350 transactions have been created based on the date. Okay, the date was not properly formatted. That's why it's coming like this. Okay, you also need to ensure the data is properly formatted. So in this case, what happened was, for example, here, I didn't check the date properly. So I can just go in, let's say, format the date. So if there is an issue, what do you do? Again, once again, you convert it. So that's why I said you need to validate whether the data has been properly converted. Now you see for each transaction, it tells me what is the debit and the credit. And if the data is in the right format, I am able to import this. Okay, now we have done the journal. Let's pick up one more example of a journal. Single entry conversion. Okay, I'm going to keep one more open. Okay, let's pick up this data. Now, same thing, I'm just showing you this one data information. See, this is the JV. Okay, this is a JV transaction. They had debit ledger name, and this is a government agency where they had these expenses pertaining to the debit, and they also had the corresponding ledger name. Okay, once we had this particular ledger name, we're able to convert using this JV option. A copy of the voucher is made, and then you have this vouchers which are created by debiting and crediting. Okay, just like I showed you earlier, the same thing, you can just convert the data in this particular format. Okay, now let's come to the sales or purchases. I have the sample data pertaining to a particular company. Now this is the sales data to convert. Now I've got this data. Let me just expand this a little. Yeah. Now this is the data. I just get the column names correctly. Now these are the column names which are relevant to me. Okay, I'm not interested in the invoice value because I'm going to compute the invoice value. Now this data pertaining to sales can be converted in two ways. It can be converted through a JV also. It can be converted through the sales option. I'll show you both. Let's go ahead. I got this data. I just ensure that the data is properly formatted. Okay, now I just come inside and check whether the date is correct. Now you see the date is in Tally in Excel. If the data is in the correct format, you should be able to show in this way. Okay, I also check the invoice number and check there are no blanks here. Okay, I got the invoice value, all the data is available. Similarly, I can check in GST sales, all these columns, whether any blanks. Okay, now let's come and convert this. I select E2TallySoft Pro. I'm going to select the sales option. Now here you see there will be slight change in the form compared to the bank statement. So I got the date, I got the voucher number, which is the S number here. I got the voucher type. Now I don't have the voucher type, so I'm going to manually enter. By default, it's selected the sales. I can also change it and say, this is actually, I have created the voucher type in Tally called GST sales, whichever name you have. By default, it has taken the debit party name. Now it also tells you that the debit amount will be computed automatically. How it will be computed? Based on the credit you select. Where do you select the credit? You can select in the next one. So here I go and select. This is the GST sales. By default, it has got IGST, and I got SGST and CGST and SGST. Now, there's one important thing you need to remember. In this case, if you see what is the column name, I selected the column name. It will consider that column name as the ledger name, and below that, what is taken is the amount. Suppose I got one more column. Let's say in this case, I got GST sales 9%, GST sales 12%, like that. I got different things. I can select the column name for the name, and I can select the amount. If there's any cess or discount, I can use this. I say convert the data. Now you see it's converted. I can look at the statistics. It gives me statistics. Now I do the preview vouchers. Now it's converting all these vouchers. Now see this is what is created. Now let me save this. Now it's going to convert this data and save it in Excel in the Tally voucher format, which is ready to import to Tally. Data has been exported. Do you want to open the file? I say yes. See, now it has got this particular data here, sales voucher file. Now this is what has been created. Now you see the name of the party is debited, credit GST sales, CGST or SGST. Suppose you have a column for CGST 9%, SGST 9%, it will create like that. Similarly, other case you got IGST 18%, it will create based on the column name, it will create these transactions. Now this data can be imported in Tally, provided you have all the ledger names. Now the same process is for the purchases also. Now see, these are the purchases I got. Now I got the same data. I've just modified to some extent for the purchases. Now I'll show you directly the purchases converted. See, this how it will be created. The name of the party is created, GST purchase debited, and automatically CGST, SGST is created. Now let me show you how simple the conversion is. So I go to, now in this case, I select the purchases. Now here I select the date and the S number is taken, voucher type. By default is taken purchases. I can leave it as purchases, or let's say in my ledger, I got it as Tally, I got GST purchases. The voucher type should match with what is created in Tally. So party name, I've already got the party name. I say next. Now here I have to select the ledger name for this. I select the GST purchases. Now I got the IGST, Yes, that's all. I say convert. Now you see this will be converted as a purchase. Now come to statistics. It gives me statistics. Now I say preview vouchers. The same process followed for sales and purchase. Now you see here, the party is created and GST is debited. CGST, SGST is created. Now let me show you one complex entry which we did directly by importing the purchase from the portal. There's one client who had this data, which is the sales purchases, which is directly downloaded from the portal, and then they're able to convert and import into Tally. Okay, now we have the sales and you also have the purchases. Let me just show you first sales. Now in this case, now this is a little complex. This is how the data is available. Okay, they also wanted a ledger name. You remember I told you about the ledger name? Now, which means we had to add the ledger name. For the ledger name, we have to use a formula to add the ledger name, because depending on the GST rate applicable, it created the name as GST sales at 9% or GST sales at 2.5%. All the ledgers were created for GST, which is the IGST, SGST, etc. Okay. Once I got this data, now this data is converted in this way. Now, if you see, depending on the particular ledger name, this is created. Now, I'll show you how this is to be selected. Now, here the difference is I got the ledger name in a different column, the amount in a different column. Okay. Now, let me go and show you how to convert this data. I got E2TallySoft. This pertaining to sales. I go to sales. Now, here I got the invoice date, trans ID, which is the transaction number. Voucher type, I give it a sales. Okay, enter party name. Here I got the customer name. Okay, say debit amount will be computed automatically. I say next. In this case, if you see, here I've got the GST sales ledger. So I go and select the GST sales ledger. Okay, and then here I select the, here I don't need to select. Here one I have to select. Here I have to give the amount, which is the GST sales. Okay, correspondingly, I give the header for the IGST, SGST. So in this case, depending on, if you see the column here, GST sales ledger, for each of the rows, the GST sales will be computed based on the data which is available in each of the rows, and the amount will be picked up from here. I say convert data. So now it's converted. You see the statistics, preview vouchers. So now you see here, did we make a mistake? What is the mistake we made? I've got GST sales only, which is 9,600. I don't have the SGST, CGST. Maybe I think I made a mistake in the selection. Let's come back again. If you see the actual conversion, the conversion will be like this. I have the debit and the corresponding credit will be like this. Okay. Let's see what went wrong. I have the GST sales ledger. Okay, now here, this is a mistake I made. For IGST, CGST also, I need to select the ledgers. So if you don't select the ledgers correctly, which means like they say, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, the data result will not be correct. That's why I said, you always need to validate whether the correction conversion happens correctly. Now here, I got the sales data. I'm going to convert again. Sales, same process for the purchase also. So here I got the voucher type. Let me keep it as this only. I got the customer name. Yeah. So here I go to next. Now here column name, this will be the GST. I type G, I get the GST. No, this is not the GST. The GST sales ledger. And here I have the GST sales. Now it's very, very important that you select the right, because this is supposed to be the amount. This is the GST sales amount. That's correct. Similarly, here for IGST, I have to select the IGST ledger. And here IGST is already selected. Here again, I have to select the CGST ledger. And here I have to select the SGST ledger. Okay, amount by default is already selected. Okay, now I convert. Now you see it is converted. I can see the statistics. Now let me come back and look at the vouchers. Now you see, still I think there is some issue here. We are not able to convert the data correctly. Okay, so there is some issue here. Automatically, we should have converted the data in the right format. So we have made some mistake somewhere. Let's check this. Automatically, if you convert the data, it should have gone in this way. Okay, let me try one last time. So let's see what went wrong. I have the IGST ledger. Okay, now I got it. Yes. Now you tell me whether what is the mistake which happened. Okay, by default, some of the amounts are selected. That's where we got the mistake. Okay, now let's see whether you can catch the mistake. I'm going to select the sales. Sometimes there's an iteration. You'll have to learn, because once you learn, then I think it becomes easier. You'll not make the same mistakes. I have the customer name, and now I know where I made the mistake. Let's see whether you can catch it. I go to next. So here I selected. Now be careful here. You can just select here. Here I'm going to select the GST sales ledger. This is clear. Now here I have to select the GST sales amount, the column which has got the amount. Okay. Now if you see here, GST sales ledger and the amount. Now here I selected the IGST ledger. Now this is a mistake I made here. If you see, by default it has got the IGST ledger. Here I should select the IGST amount. That is the mistake. So don't believe what is selected by default. Validate and check whether what you got is correct. And now I select the CGST ledger. Here again I have to select the CGST amount. Next I select here. Yes, GST ledger. Now here again I have to select the yes GST amount. Yes, now we are on the right track. I say convert data. Now the data should be perfectly converted. So it's very, very important that you get the data right. In statistics also, you can check whether the amount has come correctly, because last time the amount would not have come. I say preview vouchers. Now you see the transactions have been correctly and completely converted. I can say save. Now this particular data is now ready to import. It will be saved and you can import. Now you see there are thousands of transactions. All the transactions can be imported in a few minutes. So these are transactions. So if you see here, there are about 2,540 rows, which may totally 861 vouchers. All this could be imported, converted in a few seconds, and also imported in a few minutes. Okay. Same way, I've also got the purchase data. I'm not going to show the demo, but I'll just show you the result so that you can get an idea. See, in this case also, I got the purchases. Same way, I got the sales. I can convert the sales in this particular way. Okay. Now let me show you one more thing. So I've got the GST sales. If it is with the purchases, let's say I have the sales with the cost center. How will it come? I'll just show you. I'll not convert this, or one example I'll convert it and show you. Now here, if you see, we've got some test cases. Recently added this feature. Now, if you see here, I got this particular data, which is the ledger name. You got the ledger name. They also got the cost center and the cost CC debit. This is how the data has to be given. This is for the sales. Now they are maintaining the cost center credit for the sales. Now I want to convert this data. Once I convert this data, if you see here, this is how the data gets converted. For each of them, you got the diesel expenses, which is debited, corresponding GST sales is credited, and the primary cost center is added. When you import from Tally, this primary cost category is directly added. Okay, this is for one cost center only. If there are multiple cost centers, again, if you see here, in this case, these two cost centers are common, and the date is also common, which means one transaction in one voucher, two transactions are there. Now, if you see, when you convert, automatically this will be totaled, and there will be one transaction which is created. And if these are different for the same date, the different cost categories are created. Okay, now another case, if you see here, this is also another one where I got 111 and 22. Now, if you see here, again, in this case, when I convert, the cost center transactions are total depending on the voucher number. For example, if the same transaction ID is there, automatically that will be total. And wherever the cost category is also same, it will be total. This is another case where you got 111 and 2. So you can also convert this. So you see, this is how it gets converted. You also have the statistic pertaining to this. Now, let's say I have this transaction. Let me see whether I can convert through the JV. I have this transaction. I want to convert to JV. How will it look like? When I convert to JV, it's very simple. I need to have the debit and the corresponding credit. Okay, now if you see, I got the debit amount. Okay, I also have the total amount, which is the credit amount. Okay, I have the total debit and the total credit. Now let's see how we can convert this through a JV. I go to E2TallySoft, pick up the JVs. I'll take another 5 minutes max because I want to bring it to a logical close. I've got this particular transaction. It's very important to read this. It says, just check whether all the fields are correctly selected. Invoice date, trans ID, voucher type. I select the voucher type like this, or I want the voucher type is what is there in the column. I select the voucher type. What is in the voucher type will be taken, although you're creating using the JV option. Now I got the debit ledger name and I also got the debit amount. So it's always better to give the column name correctly so that you get the correct name. Here I got the credit. Now here there's a little difference. I select the multiple option. In the multiple option, now I have got the GST sales, SGST, because all these are under the column names. Now if you see here, this is what is available. Okay, these are ledgers which are created, which means the first transaction, the debit will be 40,050, credit will be GST sales 12,500, SGST 1125 and CGST 1125. That's how it should be created. I say convert data. Now see, this is how it is converted. Debit and credit, like that it is actually converted. This I can also use the journal option to convert the data. I want to show you one more thing. Now let's say we come to the receipt or the payment. Let me pick up the payment. The payment and the receipt are similar. Here I'm just giving you some example with the. Now I've got this particular data. I've got the payment and they have got the cash or bank column. How do I convert this? Okay, now I can use the option. This is the data which is available. I've got the cash or bank column. Using the receipt and payment, I can do the conversion. Okay, I've got these transactions and this with the cost center. Now I'll show you what is actually converted. Once it's converted, see cash, this particular amount is debited. With the primary cost category, there are 2 items is actually added. Now if you see here, in this case, for this particular voucher number 1, same transaction ID, there are 2. So these 2 are separately shown. Okay, now similarly for each of the voucher types, depending on the type of the transaction, these are created. Now let me show you one simple conversion. I got this particular data. Now I want to use the conversion of the receipt and the payment. I go to receipt of payment. Some of the formats are slightly different, but I think if you follow one format, this is pertaining to payments only. It can have both receipt and payment. So I'm going to select the payment, and payment by default it has picked up this one. Voucher type, it has picked up this one, or I can go and select the voucher type column, and I can select the column payment, voucher type. Now I can also connect to Tally. In that case, I can connect to Tally and also add the voucher column, voucher type from here. Okay. Now this is very important. Date column is correctly selected. Okay, and then I got the narration. I don't have any narration here. Here I have to select whether it's a bank or a cash. Now in this case, this is all pertaining to cash. I select the cash. I can also have cash or bank in the same column. So I select the cash or bank column. I select the party ledger name, which is the ledger name here. And I have to tell whether the amount is in single or multiple columns. I got amount in the single column only. Then I say convert. I can also add the additional details, which is what I say. I select the cost center. Automatically selected the cost center columns. And I say convert the data. Now you see this data has been converted with all this. When it's converted, it's individually converted. When I say preview, this is where the totals are done and the consolidation done based on the voucher ID. So it means if there are multiple transactions with the same voucher ID, these are added together. So this is how it gets converted. Okay, so I have given you a demo of the sales, purchases, services, bank, and also the recent payments. These are the most important things. I've also given you a demo of how to import the data to masters and the vouchers. You also have statistics. This gives you the statistics from Tally, which you can get. Okay. And I also showed you can open Tally directly from here. You can also validate. It creates a validation summary and tells you what are the errors in that based on which you can correct. So this broadly, what I want to give you a glimpse of what is possible through E2TallySoft. So if you see the synopsis of what is possible in E2TallySoft, if you go to a website, and look at E2TallySoft Pro, so you'll get a synopsis of the same thing which you talked about. Okay, 7 key features, how you can import the comparative features. It also has got some demo of how to use the software. Okay, there's some external faculty presentations also are also there. Okay, not only that, now I want to show you the functions. I can click on the functions. I can give a complete list of all the functions here. Pertaining to, I can also see the key features. Now, if I want to see the webinar recording, whatever I've done here, I can also go to the webinars. Now, this webinar, what recording I've done today, will be uploaded. Now, if you see here, you can, it will come in the this one E2TallySoft. It will come tomorrow. It will be available in this as the first link. Okay. For example, yesterday we did a webinar, 15 June. The video is already uploaded. So all the, if you're not attended the past webinars, you would like to have a look at them, you can also look at the recorded videos. This taking a little time because the connection is a little slow today. Okay. Now let me stop sharing. If you got any questions, I'll take it. I hope this presentation is useful. If you got any feedback, you can tell me. Okay. Thank you very much and look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Namaste.